Welcome to the Bedrock Engineers Podcast, bringing you robot combat discussions for people who don't know what they're talking about.
It's carnage here in the Battlebots! Oh! Huge hit there! Now he's a fire-breathing dragon! Hey! Hold on! Woo! I feel like I'm in a scene from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre! Getting, we're gonna need a bot medic!
Here are your hosts, Ben and Scott. Welcome back, everybody, to the Bedrock Engineers Podcast. I'm Ben, and my co-host is Scott. Say hi, Scott.
Hello, everyone.
This is the first time doing an actual intro instead of just starting at some point. I have a tiny bit of follow-up from the last episode. You know how Minotaur's drum wasn't working quite right for most of the fight against Gigabyte?
I definitely thought it was struggling.
And I was the guy who was who was kind of going, well, maybe it was working at first, and then damage caused it to stop working. Turns out I was right.
Really?
Yeah, it was working fine for,
That's what they
for a
say?
moment at the beginning, yeah. And then the drum was just too close to the ground, and any sort of damage from Gigabyte, which is what happened, caused it to lean forward just enough to where it was which still wouldn't have been a problem if this floor wasn't so terrible, but it was, so, you know.
Yeah, but they were hitting the ground, they were hitting the floor last season, you told me.
No.
I think you might need to
Did I say
listen
that?
to the episode, because you were saying they were hitting the floor when I kept saying, the Copperhead guys said that they increased their ground clearance, and then you followed that up with, they had bigger wheels, but now they have a bigger drum, so their ground clearance didn't increase any. The bottom line is, if you were hitting last year and you're hitting this year, the bottom line is you need to correct that. You're hitting the ground.
You know what I think I said? Is that they got Minotaur's body just kind of has a problem where it can get high-centered easily. It got high-centered against Tombstone because Tombstone tore up a piece of the floor, and Minotaur got stuck on that, ending the fight. And Toro Maximus at Robo Games gets propped up against the wall quite a lot, so they run these little metal casters at the back, like little extra wheels, to stop that from happening and let them roll off more easily. And this season they've corrected that specific problem. The drum never had an issue with this. The body itself did. Bigger wheels and then bigger drum to keep it close to the ground, but they made the drum a little bit larger than it needed to be this time, so now it touches the floor.
Well, let me just say, they're too close to the floor.
Agreed, and they said that their solution for this, since the drum should have been spinning up fine, was that they just took an angle grinder from one of their sponsors and just gave both sides of the drum a buzz cut.
Do you mean both sides of the drum? Yeah, okay.
The drum. Got it, like shaved it off.
How
just
come they
enough
didn't
to
just
where
put
it
the smaller drum on?
Well, they don't have a smaller drum. What do you mean?
Well, they had from last year. You just said...
Well, it wouldn't be big enough. It'd be way too small. I think this season's drum is like 2 inches greater in diameter or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, vertical spinners
I think
need
they're
to
in
be
trouble.
real close to the floor.
I think Minotaur's in trouble.
Well, if that really is all they need to do to fix it, then it sounds like they're back.
I suspect that's not all they need to do, and you're not back until you win a fight.
Yeah.
Convincingly, like you were winning last year.
I think they got this, though.
Well, we're going to find out, I
We're going to
hope.
find out. Yeah, we are going to find out.
I don't know, man. I think their driver's rattled. I think he's getting outdriven, and we're going to find out, man. They're definitely, I mean, they're not dominating. They're not even
half performing. Really.
No, they're not performing. I mean, it would be awesome. And, when we started this podcast and we started watching the season, a lot of robots were struggling. They weren't 100% showing up to the competition. They are getting better. You can tell everybody's getting their act together better. So hopefully they get their act together better and start performing at the high level that they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome.
It's kind of like, okay, so the season 2 runner-up was Bombshell, and then the fact that they were terrible the next season made a lot of people happy. Like, it felt like victory to them, because a lot of people didn't like Bombshell due to losing its first fight and then being wild-carded and making it all the way to the final. And then in the semifinals, it beat Minotaur and stopped a Tombstone Minotaur final from happening. So it felt like a win for people when Bombshell was doing terribly in season 3. But this time it just feels sad to see the runner-up doing this poorly. It really is kind of depressing. Like, oh man, this shouldn't be happening. This really should not be happening.
Well, you're absolutely right. It should not be happening.
Yeah. But such is life. Doesn't always go according to plan, especially not in robot combat.
Yeah.
Should we move on to Battlebots Season 6? Season 6. I mixed up the words episode and season for the second time in this episode.
We'll say it again.
Should we move on to Battlebots Episode 6?
Let's do.
What'd you think of this episode?
I thought it was the best episode so far. I loved it.
Really?
I really did. Yep, I really did, man. It was just enjoyable watching. That's really what I mean when I say that. I'm not saying every fight was the best fight, of all. These weren't the 7 best fights of the season, but I just really enjoyed this episode. It was good. There was action, even though there was a couple of quick knockouts. There was damage dealt. I just really liked it. There weren't, even though there was a couple of quick fights and a couple didn't perform as well as we all want them to perform, I enjoyed it. And from a viewer standpoint, for me, it was awesome. Also, my roommate watched it. It was kind of her second time to ever watch this, and she thought it was great. She enjoyed every one of them, so...
I thought it was, compared to the last 3, it was alright, I guess. It's specifically because there were 2 fights that didn't even happen, essentially. That
happened.
Really made me go, well...
They happened.
They did happen, but were they fights? Can you consider them fights if they end in one hit?
Well, if we stand up and you knock me out, it's going to feel like a fight to me.
Alright, you got me there. You got me there.
Yeah, the goal of a fight is to knock the other guy out as quick as possible. Our Roboteers even told us that. If you go to the judges, they feel like they've already lost. So clearly, the goal is to knock their ass out as quick as possible. That's the goal. Now, as they get better and better and stronger, well-built and all that, we're seeing fights that are really, these guys are doing some damage, and a lot of them are lasting a lot longer than you would expect them to last, but... There's some real damage done. Some robots got their ass tore up.
There's a theme for this episode right from the beginning, which is the weapon bracket / mounting getting separated from the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, it's probably a weak point, it is clearly a weak point.
Yeah.
It's easy to build a super stout body frame, but when you start attaching things to it that have to move or do something, it's inherently a weak spot, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
You should know about that. You're probably learning about that right now.
Yeah. Change is only as strong as its weakest link, as they say.
Yeah. Very true.
Point of least resistance.
Very true.
So, the first fight of the night was Hydra versus Warhawk. And can I just say, the least original joke ever, but it's completely appropriate. Hail Hydra. Alright, that's all that needs to be said about that machine. So let's talk about Warhawk.
Well, Warhawk came in at 1-0, as did Hydra, by the way. They both came in 1-0, so both of them were winners.
Now, you didn't see Warhawk's first fight, did you? Because it was against Petunia in a sign.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It was boring, so nothing to say.
I didn't. One thing interesting I thought was the little mini bot actually did something.
It sure did, didn't
it? It got under Hydra a couple times. It didn't do much. Well, it got under him a couple of times, and it was just interesting to see one of those things, finally do something.
Yeah. You say it didn't do much, but I'm going to argue with that. It would have done a lot if if Warhawk itself had managed to capitalize.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
They got under Hydra, and Warhawk didn't do anything.
Apparently, they were having radio problems in this fight.
There you go.
The machine was not responding, which apparently was almost as big a problem as the floor. According to a lot of Roboteers, they were having radio signal.
A lot of people are.
They were not.
I wonder if all that steel is inhibiting the signal.
I don't know. The fact that this was
first
not
off, let me just say,
season.
I can guarantee you that it's giving some problems, but it shouldn't give. They are pretty close.
Yeah.
But all that steel definitely wreaks havoc on radio signals. But still, they shouldn't have any trouble, really. Yeah,
the really big moment came very close to the beginning of like Warhawk apparently just stopped responding to the controls because they just kind of sat there and
did.
and gave Hydra enough time to back up, slowly drive around to the correct side, line up the flipper, and then get a big flip. And it was almost like after that happened, Warhawk was kind of half asleep and had dozed off, and then suddenly after being flipped, it was like, oh, I'm awake. Okay, what's going on? And it seemed fine after that, but not for long. Not for long.
No.
But no, it got red deviled.
Yeah.
I did not know Warhawk was modular. They're modularly constructed. I don't think they're a modular bot though. Like they only have one weapon thing.
Yeah.
So why are they built like that? I guess it's to make
well,
repairs easier.
I don't know. I don't think they're modular. Yeah, I was just impressed that the mini bot actually worked and did something. But you're right; they definitely didn't take advantage of it. I guess it's because they had a radio trouble.
Yeah, that's the part that impressed you about this fight, not the fact that a flipper broke its opponent.
No, that's
into
not.
triple
Well,
pieces.
that's not. That's one of the things that impressed me about the fight. What really impressed me was the flips. I mean, Hydra flipped their ass, man.
Oh my gosh.
Second flip, they were upside down. The third flip, they broke apart.
Yep.
KO'd them.
KO'd them. Did they get their ass kicked?
No. Well, I guess they did.
Yeah, they didn't really do much. But yeah, Minibot was super effective. Hydra was...
I don't know about super effective.
It would have been super effective.
I mean, it did something finally. It got under the robot, what it's designed to do, and then nothing. They didn't take advantage.
Nothing, because they just couldn't, apparently.
You know, the truth is my notes don't say it. But now that I think about it, Warhawk got its ass kicked.
My favorite part of this fight was when the middle pod separated and like it got thrown across the floor and then it lands upright and the weapon is still spinning on it, attached to nothing. I mean, it looked like an animal that got decapitated and the head is like still trying to crawl away somehow.
I can't argue with you.
It was kind of pathetic, but also
I can't argue with you.
just kind of like, whoa.
Didn't Hydra also flip the Minibot as well?
Yeah, right before
disappeared.
the fight ended, they managed to flip it and it landed upside down.
Get out of here.
Landed upside down, apparently can't drive inverted.
It was still, I mean, there was damage done, and I enjoyed the fight.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fight too. It was not necessarily a contest, just due to Warhawk having like these rubber shock mounts between each thing.
Not a great contest. I mean, I enjoyed it, though, and I really do like Hydra.
Yeah, Hydra's really cool.
Yeah, really do like Hydra.
Yeah, I think overall, something about Hydra. Like I don't know what it is, and I might just be completely illogical here, but I don't know that they're as good as Bronco just yet. Their flipper's clearly on par with Bronco, but I don't know, stuff about this fight just kind of makes me think maybe they're not quite on that level just yet, and I can't describe what it is.
Well, they're the ones that have the funny wheels, right? What are those wheels called?
Are you thinking of Shatter, the Mecanum wheels?
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking of Shatter. You're right. I mean, these guys aren't able to slide to the side, are they?
No.
Okay.
How I'm wondering, like, how effective would that be on a flipper, which needs to get a front on?
It'd be very effective. It'd be very effective.
Would
In
it
fact,
really?
it'd be yes. Oh yes. I mean, we talked about this before. The way almost everything fights. You don't move forward and backward. You move sideways. Animals, people. If you can get a machine that can slide to the side a little bit, it's way better, man. You can keep your front towards them. Let's think about how many fights where the guys have to maneuver around and then they're weakest or their side is exposed, and you'd be much more effective if you could slide to the side, man. Keep your front towards them. Think about the team we're going to make fun of here in a little bit, which I believe is
Sidewinder?
Sidewinder, yes.
Sidewinder, yeah.
Think about if they could keep their side in the right orientation to them, which would then kind of be their front, and then turn. Anyway, it'd just be much more effective if you had that kind of control.
Yeah, I guess.
Basically helicopter control,
I was actually going to use that as a segue into the next fight.
Oh, really?
I was going to say something along the lines of, speaking of robots that could make use of Mecanum wheels, Sidewinder versus Scorpios.
They could. Actually, everybody could.
Could they really? I'm not quite convinced that a lot of designs need that sort of thing.
Well, I'm not saying for instance, it doesn't seem like Tombstone would need that. Tombstone does just fine, man. But, specifically on flippers and hammers, really, I think a lot of things could benefit from it, especially when you're struggling, or not struggling, but, look, there's a couple of robots at the very top, Tombstone and Bite Force certainly are the first two I can think of. Mm-hmm. And they don't need that help, but kind of a lot of others do. Even good robots do, I think.
Yeah, the thing about, you mentioned Tombstone not needing them. I think they would hurt Tombstone a lot because its wheels are way out on the side, exposed. Like, Mecanum wheels are the type of thing that will not ever be able to be exposed, like other wheel types, because they're a lot more fragile, they're much more complex. They need to be protected thoroughly to work at all. If they take a hit, they are shattering and they are done. Yeah,
but there's a lot of robots that are kind of designed that way. Even, for instance, Captain Shredderator. Just think if they could move properly,
some sort of beacon on the controller, like just left, right, forward, back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need to think about which direction the machine is facing underneath. Yeah. That's a pretty cool idea.
Well,
Melty Brains.
They don't have those wheels, though.
Melty Brains. Melty Brains with...
What does that mean?
The machine, like Nuts 2, that can spin and move at the same time. It uses some sort of a complex accelerometer code thing to stop and start one of the wheels at a certain time to translate the machine while it's spinning on the spot.
Didn't you say in the first episode they outlawed that or can't use that?
They're illegal in Battlebots, but not in other competitions.
Well, but we're talking about Battlebots.
If somebody built a Melty Brain with Mecanum wheels, that would be...
Why did Battlebots make that illegal?
You got me. Okay. You really do got me. I have never heard it explained.
Okay.
So speaking of robots that can make effective use of Mecanum wheels, Sidewinder versus Scorpios.
They definitely could.
I can still use it.
Hell yeah. They definitely could, man.
Sidewinder, are actually both machines coming in 1-0. 1 victory, no losses. Sidewinder's first fight was against P1, that robot with the Clemson Tide paw on it.
Yeah, when was that fought?
I don't know. It's not going to be aired.
We didn't see it.
It's not going to be aired.
Okay.
And not until probably January.
So it wasn't even in the science...
No.
Okay.
You will not see that fight until much, much later from now.
Did the Clemson team get their ass kicked?
Apparently so, but
That's a shame.
According to some people who were there, it was an incredibly good fight, actually.
Oh, really?
And a thorough display.
Why is it not making?
I don't know. Apparently, according to the show, from the clip they showed, it looked like it ended after only 48 seconds.
Well, a good fight can still be over in 48 seconds.
Yeah.
Two robots are getting it on. Somebody's going to get knocked out.
But it's like to the point where it was such a good fight that people are actually angry it wasn't included.
Well, I'm angry it wasn't included.
Yeah, I want to see that. Although from the one small highlight reel we got, it looked like Sidewinder did something I wasn't really thinking that they were going to be able to do with this design, which was get under the guy with the forks on the front and then turn to the right and hit them underneath with the bar.
When you think about that, would be awesome if they could do that.
That would be awesome.
They certainly didn't do that in this fight.
They did not. One hit to Scorpios actually took a big chunk out of the top shoulder of that 3/8 inch Armox 500 armor, actually. So that bar's got some serious power, but that hit also broke the weapon assembly itself, continuing the theme for this episode of weapon frames getting broken. Now, apparently, their weapon frame, unlike Tombstone's, is made of titanium, which is not a very common thing, but they apparently got this titanium from China.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And now...
And this titanium isn't as good as normal titanium?
Isn't as good as they were wanting it to be. They were lied to by the seller.
America's still got good shit, man.
Yeah, they were apparently lied to by the seller. And now this is a problem...
That's not shocking to me.
This is a problem that has been going on since... in robot combat in general, but especially in Season 3.
Substandard
material from China that teams had to get before they came to Battlebots because they were in China for King of Bots.
Buy that shit from American companies.
Because they were in King of Bots or in This Is Fighting Robots, which was the King of Bots spinoff, right? So they would order parts from Chinese manufacturers to a specific standard that they need for their machine. the manufacturer would tell them, here you go, this is what you ordered, and it would never be what they ordered. So Gigabyte, the full body spinner, their first fight was against Tombstone. They managed to take the hits for a bit and then get a side-on hit on Tombstone that hit their wheel, but right as they were doing that, the shell just came off because the Weapon Masters made a cast aluminum instead of the 6061 T6 that they ordered. So that was jank, and apparently they also had a bunch of axles that were made out of that same stuff that were completely inferior. Minotaur also later found out that their body, which is aluminum, was made out of jank Chinese material. And now there's a few machines, including Bronco actually, apparently this season, that have these subpar parts that they got from China. And I'm just sitting here wondering, why do you people still order from China if this is such a big problem?
Well, for one, American company. There aren't as many American companies that make that kind of stuff. They're very, it's more expensive. Our manufacturing base has moved to China. It really has. It's hard to find those types of materials in America. At least I believe it is.
I don't know. I'm sure that they have a good reason for doing it, but
well, it's probably just necessity.
Was it worth it though?
When you can't get it, or it's very hard to get, or it's very expensive to get, you kind of have to do certain things like that.
I mean, I would argue.
I don't know exactly why they're doing that. But everybody has a budget, man. And you got to scrape and you think you're getting what you ordered, and you don't. I don't know how many times though. If you continually get burned by that, then shame on you.
I think if one hit kills you because of those parts, then it wasn't worth it. Something has gone horribly wrong, and that's exactly what happened to Sidewinder in this fight. Yeah, one hit, and that entire bottom half and the bar came off the machine, and then from there on, it was just curtains for them.
Well, Scorpios beat him up. In fact, Scorpios kicked Sidewinder's ass.
Yeah, it sure did. Scorpios, to basically everybody, including me, has until this point really just kind of been an inferior version of Sawblaze, or at least it seems to be, because it's not as fast. It's not as
pretty fast.
It's not quite as fast though.
That guy's a good driver. He did a great job of driving.
He's a good driver.
I thought he did a great job of driving. He was all over their ass. Granted, they didn't perform that well, but he was all over their ass, delivering some blows. Which I liked.
He's not quite as good of a driver at this point as last season's driver, Ryan Beach, who is still on the team. But of course, he's getting
why
more,
did they switch
practice.
Drivers?
I'm not sure. Probably just creative differences, or maybe they made the team captain a new guy. I can't remember his name. Zach Lighthall? I don't know. But he was better in this fight than he was against Copperhead, where he was just constantly wheeling the machine, popping wheelies every time he drove forward. Yeah, so much better this time because he's got more practice. Scorpios has gained its own reputation of just being this machine that's super heavily armored and is indestructible, like Blacksmith. It just takes hits all day, never dies. But this season, it actually seems to have the weapon power to back that up.
Yeah.
Their weapon is pretty dang good. It's got that impact spinner instead of the saw.
It is.
Most people reacted to that change the same way they reacted to Sawblaze's change of the same sort, with dismay. But I, right from the get-go, was like, why are you complaining? The saw was never a big part of Scorpios' identity. They didn't even get to use the saw in 3 of their 4 fights last season. And the fight that they did use it in, they didn't do anything with it.
So what would you call their weapon again?
The Roboteers we've had on so far, including Jameson Go, actually, have referred to it as an impact spinner, which I think is kind of a
good
weird way. I think it's kind of weird because every spinner is an impact spinner, if you think about it. Well, I don't think that's the best name for it. I would say overhead spinner, but those exist as well.
Pretty good as well.
But those exist as well as overhead bar spinners like Bloodsport or
but it's not a bar spinner. It's a saw without a saw.
Jameson Go actually refers.
Saw.
Jameson Go actually refers to spinner
disc thing.
Yeah.
What does Jameson say?
Jameson refers to his own hammer spinner thing as a saw. Like he keeps saying on Reddit, and he's told me
it's a very good description. People, when you say saw, people can visualize that. And he's just replaced his saw blade with a thicker,
yeah,
thing.
thick. And
Scorpius did some damage, man. You know, Scorpius did some damage in his first fight against Copperhead. Not a ton, but you know,
enough.
beat him up, a little bit,
Yeah.
and they kicked the shit out of Sidewinder. Man.
They really
broke
did.
their robot apart. Another, so you don't think Sidewinder was well built, do you? In an episode or two ago, you kind of said almost everybody's well built, but I think you're about to say, I think you're leaning towards this one isn't as well built.
I mean, it's the Chinese part's fault that the weapon broke. Sure, I'll give you that, but you can't blame all that on the body itself being cut apart so easily. Like, you look at this thing at the end of this fight, and it looks like it just got wailed on by Tombstone for 3 solid minutes, not by this thing with like a 5-kilogram spinner. You would never imagine that that's what did that damage.
Well, so do you feel that it was just substandard parts, or do you think there's some substandard construction as well? Or
I don't know what to attribute it to.
You know what I'm saying?
This team, this is not their first time being at Battlebots. They were here in season 2 with a machine called Chromefly, which had 2 spinners on it that were both directly mounted to their weapon motors. All the good spinners are. So, of course, those broke on the first hit. But that robot actually also seemed to be made out of, like, tinfoil. But, I don't know what to say is the problem, really. Is the welding.
That's
or
fine.
the bolts.
I mean, I was just trying to figure out, what you thought of the construction of Sidewinder.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, but, like, that damage they took was just intense. Like, batteries hanging out, wires
So
everywhere.
is this the robot fight? Is this the fight that the batteries were hanging out and finally just got just disintegrated or, cut off?
I don't know that there was any actual damage to the batteries themselves, but
there was definitely one
out.
fight in this episode where somebody's batteries were hanging out. I think it might have been.
Yeah, I think it was this one.
I think that was
because
free shipping, actually.
Well, free shipping got the orange boxes on the top taken off, but no internal damage. I don't
Somebody had some batteries hanging out, and then they just got hit, and that was it. They were done. You could see them, man. 2 white batteries hanging out.
I can't remember that. It's been a number of days since we watched this episode, though, so...
Well, you're going to have to rewatch it 15 or 16 times. And let me know.
I mean, there's a few fights that I have watched a whole bunch of times, because they are great fights. But we're not just there quite yet, because our next fight is not a fight. But we're not there yet either, because we still got a little more to say about this fight. So we're both thinking that Sidewinder might be able to make use of Mecanum wheels then?
Well, I mean, yeah. Especially when they have their weapon on their side.
It's going to be
they have a
impossible
wedge
for
on the
them to,
front.
Yeah, get
just
straight
seems-
up runs on the opponent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, it'd be cool.
Yeah, this machine was a weird idea, and their first fight convinced everyone, okay, maybe they're not just a joke machine. People were actually talking about it in the pits, like, wow, that was pretty dominant against a machine that's
When they fought the Clemson team?
Yeah, when they fought the Clemson team, which is a pretty solidly built wedge thing, front hinge flipper. And people were kind of going, maybe the joke's on us. But then this fight was like, oh, okay. And apparently Sidewinder did leave the tournament early without telling anyone why they were leaving or even that they were leaving. They just were gone at some point.
They just packed up and left?
They just packed up and left.
After this fight?
According to Tim Rackers. They left the tournament early, according to Tim.
Was it after this fight?
It was after this fight.
I mean, obviously it was after this fight. But was it before their next fight? Did they
I have no
any-
idea.
Okay.
He wouldn't say when he was asked. But, yeah,
I was
apparently
just
they
fixing
did
to
not
ask
have
you
all their fights.
if you thought they would be able to rebuild the robot.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
It was tore up, man.
No.
Got the shit tore out of it.
Yeah, I would not doubt that they left the tournament after this. Especially, first of all, that's a pretty demoralizing loss, I think, to just get so utterly shredded. But also,
It is, but if you have the ability to rebuild it, God, that'd still be demoralizing.
If you know that your weapon's not going to hold up because it's like, well, all the stuff we have is that inferior stuff, what even is the point? It's just going to break again.
Well, part of the point is that you signed up to do it and you should do it. Secondly, you're trying to make this show successful so that you can do it longer for in the future, possibly make some money. So, you know, I mean, you have some responsibility, but the bottom line is if you don't have parts, man, or, you know, you can't rebuild, you might as well go home. There's nothing left. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, like a football team with no quarterbacks. I mean, you're pretty well done, man.
Yeah, pretty much. If everybody gets their arm broken because they've all got osteoporosis, then you might as well not have them on the team, right?
You're done. Anything
more to say about either machine here?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything I need to say about it, man. Scorpios, you know, is rising in my mind.
Definitely. They have a better win rate than Sawblaze, which is really ironic.
Yeah, but you know, we do have to keep in mind
that damn.
Although I think Copperhead's a real good robot as well, but you know, maybe Sidewinder. It's just, you know, with 2 fights down, it's still a little early to say, you know. I mean, the bottom line is, what am I trying to say?
The bottom line is that damn pulverizer, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, you know, some teams aren't as strong and make your robot look better. So
yeah,
I'm not sure if
has definitely fought easier opponents than Sawblaze has.
I mean, I want Copperhead to be an ass kicker. We'll see.
Oh wait, no, hold on. What'd you say? I'm sorry, I got it mixed up.
Scorpios beat Copperhead, and now Scorpios beat Sidewinder.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is, were those 2 great teams? Were those 2 average robots? You know, were those 2, you know, substandard robots? I mean,
Copperhead was a substandard machine in its first fight because it apparently they did not. Apparently, the explanation now is like they didn't use the Loctite glue on all their bolts, and they. What? Stuff happens, man. Mistakes are made.
You need to use Loctite on all your damn bolts. Let me just say that right now.
Well, a lot of teams forgot that.
If you got a bolt, you need to use Loctite on it. It's that simple. I mean, no, well, I know about Loctite, and I know about bolts coming loose, and you have to use it.
Do you need the nut on the other side if you're using Loctite, really?
Well, it depends on, there's multiple grades of Loctite. There's Loctite that's designed, it's blue. It's designed
blue
to be...
red are apparently the 2 types, yeah.
Well, there's also a green as well, and there's probably more than that, by the way. I think there's also a purple. But, you know, there's different applications. But the 2 that we're probably going to be the most interested in, and that would be used in this application, are blue and red. I think the other ones, for instance, may have high temp applications, which don't apply here. But blue is going to hold a lot. It would be on something that you would want to be able to take apart, though. You know, and you would, of course, want to be able to take these apart to replace things. Red is just about cement. It's just about you would destroy the bolt to remove it. I think you could probably still get it out, but it's designed to not be removed. Whereas blue is designed to be removed. Let's say you were attaching parts on, you know, I don't know, let's say a firearm, for instance, sights. Well, you'd want to use blue Loctite. You could take them off, but it would hold much better than nothing.
So if I'm right, Loctite needs like anaerobic conditions to solidify, right? So no oxygen or
well,
no air.
I don't actually know how that works. I'm not sure. We might have to get a Loctite representative on to explain that.
We might have to build our own machine. I really want to build a D2
that's a
kit.
stretch.
For real, I want to build a D2 kit.
Well, build one.
Well,
build
they're
one.
Expensive. They're like $400.
Let me say it again. Build one.
Okay, yeah.
I got my own hobbies, man.
You don't want to build it with me?
I will build it with you, but I'm not buying it with you.
Fair enough. All right, yeah, fair enough. We do need to go to an ant-weight event, though, or a beetle weight event, like Rob and Zach were saying. Like, I want to go to that now.
Go.
Seriously.
Go. By the way, I think what we're really working towards is getting invited by Discovery Channel to come to next year's show. And, you know, kind of be behind the scenes comment, not on air commentators, but just to help give them some publicity, you know.
Maybe, yeah. We're kind of already doing that. What I would like to do, if we go to Battlebots is filming.
Let me rephrase this. I want to do it at the actual episode. And I want to be invited by Discovery. Us.
You want to actually make this podcast live? And
I don't know about live. Well, they're not live, so no, it wouldn't be live. But we would be, you know, I think they're going to eventually have to invite us. I think we're just that big.
getting 200 views on YouTube per video. Yes, I did.
That's
say,
my
I
goal.
did say
My goal is to get Discovery Channel to invite us to the show. Free tickets. That's what I'm looking for.
We should move on to Valkyrie versus Ragnarok.
Let's do it.
Oh well, the fight's already over. Okay, moving on to free shipping versus Yeti.
Well, first let me say, Ragnarok. Man, I'm not a fan, dude.
Why?
Not a fan at all.
Why are you not a fan of this glorious hammerbot?
That stupid ass gear that's sitting up on the top of the thing, dying to be hit.
Damn it, Tim!
Let me, for instance, say if this was a human fight, you'd look up and say, "Look at that big old unprotected head." Boom! Oh, knocked out. Boom! Oh, knocked out. Boom! Oh, knocked out. I mean, you know, if you're going to have your gear up there, which is the heart and soul of your weapon, unprotected, and by the way, with a nice, awesome wedge designed to force your opponent's weapon right into your gear, you're going to get the fuck knocked out.
I should probably mention the way the joke was on me with this machine. There was a machine called Beta in Season 2, John Reed's other robot, that fought Tombstone and beat its ass until the very end, where Tombstone got flipped, and its bar was much higher, and since the wedge on Beta was really short, and then the weapon assembly was right behind it, Tombstone's bar just went right off the wedge and chopped off the top of the hammer. And even before it got flipped, it was kind of getting small hits on the hammer assembly. It was not very well protected by the wedge at all, and I kept thinking, well, you know, the wedge is great, but it leads right into the weapon. It's kind of a self-defeating design. But then when I saw this thing, I thought, oh, good, okay, there's no way it's going to get hit way up there. It's like 2 feet off the ground. There ain't no way. Hit one.
I know.
It got hit.
Yes, I mean, look, these things are powerful. 2 feet's not far enough if you want to, you know, be out of the way of some weapon.
I mean, Valkyrie bounced upward, perfect level to the ground, like a full body spinner.
You know, the truth is, we don't know if Valkyrie's any good.
Yeah, we do. It's great. It's really good. Like
that
spinner weighs 31
I'm very
kilograms.
pleased that there was there was some damage done. It was a knockout. I like knockouts, but that's not enough to say Valkyrie's a good robot or even a great robot. I don't know if they're good or great. We don't know yet.
This season they
came in 0-1.
Tested it really well. Yeah.
I can't remember their first fight exactly. Do they have reliability problems?
Apparently their bottom plate got bent in and took off one of the drive motors, separated it from its mounting because Hypershock has a pretty dang powerful
Hypershock was
spinner.
on their ass.
Hypershock has a pretty dang powerful spinner apparently if it can do that. But
well, you know, so I'm just. I guess my point is I'm not sure that Valkyrie's all that. Even though they knocked their ass out, man, I think Ragnarok is definitely not all that.
Yeah, I can accept that.
You know, I know you want them to be more than they appear to be.
Damn it, Tim!
It's a one-punch knockout.
Tim!
And what I would have to say is Ragnarok got its ass kicked.
Tim! No! Yeah, it did. I was so heartbroken when this fight happened. Like, this could have and should have been one of the greats. A big horizontal against a big wedge with a hammer. This should have been an amazing fight. And it wasn't. It ended in 1 second. The count out lasted longer than the fighting, just like Duck Bombshell.
You're right.
Gosh.
Like I've said, I like a good knockout, but
it wasn't even a good hit, really.
It was fast.
Yeah, it was fast.
It was Tyson.
It was really fast.
It was Tyson back in the day. Fight starts, boom, out, cold.
Yeah.
Which left people left people wanting more, no doubt. And this kind of did too. Well, let me say a couple other things. Valkyrie being 0-1 and needing to kick someone's ass should have then come around and got in on their wheels and chewed those wheels up and kicked the shit out of them even more, tore them to pieces. Because number one, I understand that could be viewed as kind of a dick move, and I kind of thought that way in the beginning of the season, but the number one thing they need to do is sell this show, make this show enjoyable, make people want to watch it, and people want to watch machines get tore the hell up. So Valkyrie should have swung around there and come in and chewed them up for more damage, even more damage.
I mean, they just spent like
Ragnarok,
36 hours repairing the machine.
That's tough, man. That's what first off, they should love doing that, or they wouldn't get in this sport. We asked Zach about that. Zach and Rob both. And they love wrenching. These guys like to wrench. So that shouldn't even be a concern. You know, that's for a lot of people. By the way, don't build a robot, Ben, if you don't want to work on a robot. You're going to work on it all the time. Things are going to break all the time. If you get into RC cars or anything like that, you're going to wrench on those things way more than you're going to drive them. Every time you take them out, you're going to break shit. So same with this, man. If they don't love to repair their stuff, if they don't love to wrench on it, if they don't have parts that can keep it going, then, you know, they're really not into it, man. Valkyrie should have come around and kicked them, tore them up some more, because you're trying to sell the show, man. You're trying to build viewers. And viewers don't want to watch a machine just sit over there and spin around and get counted down, man. They want to see some stuff get tore up. That's what people need to realize. They want to see shit get destroyed.
Why was this fight even in an episode? Like, I think it should have been one of those unaired fights, for real. If it ends in one hit, it's an unaired fight.
No. Real life is one-hit fights, man. They happen.
But if this got to stay in, not even as a Saturday bonus, but in an episode,
well,
and P1 versus Sidewinder got cut out.
The truth is, we don't really know what happened in that fight. Maybe you do. I don't know. You know, you have to trust the producers of this show and the directors and who all's involved, and they're trying to make a show that will sell to the public, man. So it's on them to do that, and hopefully they're doing it. You know, this thing, whatever you want to call it, a sport, a hobby, or whatever. What do you call it, by the way?
A sport.
It will not last if you don't get viewers. You know, it'll just be something that's done in the shadows. You know, you have to get viewers, and then right after that, you have to get sponsors. You know, you don't get sponsors till you get viewers, and then once you start getting viewers, you get sponsors, and then you get more viewers, and then you get bigger sponsors, and then you build something. You know, motocross, for instance, has gone that way. You know, and it took a long time before they got really high level sponsorship. And once you get that, then you can now start paying people real money, and then you get quality people. You know, I'm not saying these aren't quality people, but you know, when you can make $1 million doing something, by God, people come out. You know, you get better quality people. It's the bottom line. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So they have to sell the show, and people want to see shit get destroyed. You know, people watch fighting to see people get beat up, man. But that's humans, and we all, you know, a lot of people have a hard time with seeing people get hurt, even though they want to fight. They like to fight. The fighters like to fight. Well, these are machines, so we don't have to really, you know, worry that some machine got destroyed. I mean, it's just a bunch of parts, man. So get it on, man. Bring them together. Let's see some violence. That's not really, it's not human violence, you know. I mean, a lot of people struggle to see human violence. We shouldn't have any big problem with seeing machine violence. Let's get it on, man.
I mean, bottom line, this was an awful fight.
I think I disagree with you there. A good punch, man, knockout. That's not an awful fight. No. You know, from a technical aspect, the way you're thinking of fights, maybe so, but that's not how a lot of people watch things. People watch things to see something get its ass kicked, man, and so from your, you know, technical roboteer experience, yeah, maybe it was a bad fight, but I'm telling you what, for people that you're trying to drag into the sport, they enjoy that shit. People like seeing shit get knocked out.
I bet some people do.
Well, a lot of people do.
I like seeing things get knocked out after a fight has happened.
A lot of people
But not
do.
when a fight starts. Oh, it's over.
Well, it's no doubt it's better if you could fight a while before that happens. Look, man, Ragnarok's got some flaws in their design. It's going to keep happening to them. It's not going away.
You know, I messaged Rob and Zach on Facebook after I watched this fight, and I basically was just like, "Oh, so that's why you guys were laughing when I said Ragnarok could beat Tombstone. Now it makes sense."
Yeah.
I saw this.
Ragnarok
and I was like,
cannot beat Tombstone.
No.
Ragnarok get the shit kicked out of them.
No, they could not beat Tombstone. No. I'll tell you what, though, if they did fight Tombstone, they'd get destroyed, but that wedge would be fine because it's still 14 millimeters thick.
Okay. Yeah, it would be fine because you know why? It would direct Tombstone's weapon right up into their gear, and it would get knocked completely into smithereens, probably wedged into the side wall of the stadium there.
I'm pretty sure Valkyrie hits almost as hard as Tombstone does.
Well, I don't know. I think the results would be similar.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Tombstone would knock that gear completely off. Not just bend it a little bit.
Think so?
And didn't you say, oh, maybe I'm thinking, maybe on the phone we were talking, you said something about the design of their electrical system, and specifically because they're from England, they have
a removable link, instead of a switch. And this is basically the equivalent of a switch, right? You unplug the thing, the whole machine turns off. It got smushed between a bunch of mangled metal because that gear deformed the bulkheads enough to do that.
So it wasn't just the hit
Oh,
that took
man.
them out.
Well, it was the
It
hit
was
that took them out.
well, no, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. It wasn't just the damage to their gearing up there that took them out. It was electrical damage as well.
Yeah, because the whole machine just turned off because the link just ceased to exist. And with a
Well,
switch, with a switch, the same result would have happened, except it would have been a little more funny.
No, I disagree. First off, you don't know how a switch is going to fail. Switches typically do fail closed, meaning it's like the switch isn't there. A link is designed to fail open, meaning it's like cutting the wires. It's a fail-safe, so that...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is... Why do they have this link in there?
Well, it's because Robot Wars actually, despite kind of being a more janky show in a lot of ways, they take their safety more seriously than Battlebots.
Where's their show from?
The UK.
Okay.
Yeah, they film in.
So it's
Scotland.
most likely some UK probably rules similar to OSHA or something.
Yeah, every robot on Robot Wars has to have an easily accessible by hand without removing any parts link. You can reach into the machine, just pull. The whole machine turns off. You don't even have to go into the arena with it.
Okay.
But with BattleBots, you got people testing the weapons in their driveway, or just the switch isn't accessible sometimes from underneath. If a machine gets flipped over, you have to actually flip over the machine. Some crew guys go in there while the machine is still turned on. Also, the Robot Wars has the house robots that can. At the end of the Series 10 final, Carbide's bar was, the wiring was melted, I think. It would not stop spinning, so what they did was they had Sir Kill-A-Lot pick it up in his claw and shove it into the wall to stall the bar, and a crew member ran in there and pulled out the link.
Seems like that would be a good time to actually have a net.
A net?
Yeah, didn't they say, nets are illegal because they would just throw a net on them and that would just be the end of the fight?
Yeah, nets are cheap. There should not
That's
be allowed.
why you throw a net on a machine that can't, is out of control.
So there was in Season 2, there was a version of Gigabyte called Invader, the first one that they brought there, and the full-body spinner. And this version was green instead of being a rainbow color. And in its first fight, sadly its only fight, their weapon also got stuck on, and since they don't have any house robots, their policy is if a spinner can't turn off, we wait for the battery to die. It ran for well over an hour before it spun down finally.
That's a good time for a net.
Or
cheap.
Or a house robot to push it against the wall.
Dude, a net is so cheap. Just throw a net. Oh, okay, it ate that one. Throw another net. Well,
spray some water on it.
Well, Ragnarok got its ass kicked.
Yeah, it did.
And apparently their removable link was part of the problem. I'm sorry to hear that, but they're probably done. I don't see them making a Desperado run personally. I mean, I think they're done.
I wonder what the criteria is for selecting a machine. I'll bet you, if I were running the event, my criteria would be you have to be doing badly, but you have to be at least by some understanding, just getting bad luck, or you're doing well but just losing. End game.
Let me say, that's what you need.
Damage.
You need to be doing well but losing. For instance, how many people get into the Desperado tournament?
8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So you're taking the top. Have we determined? Is it the top 13 that make it in on selection?
Yes.
And then there's 2 more that make it in through a rumble.
15th and 16th seeds.
Well, then where does the Desperado person come in? I thought you were going to say the 14th and 15th seeds make it in through the rumble.
No, 15th and 16th, and then the Desperado tournament guy. I
comes
don't know.
in at the 14th
last year
seed.
it was the 8th seed, and I don't know if that was a coincidence or not.
Okay.
But
well, it could happen. So the bottom line is then 8 teams are going to go to the Desperado. No, you got to be doing well. You have to have a chance to win. You can't be sucking balls to get in a Desperado tournament. You have to have a chance to win. I mean, that's how last season it was. Last season that the winner came in at 8 seed.
Yeah.
That's because they had a chance to win. Let's look at for instance, the NCAA basketball tournament. Okay, 64 teams come in. Sometimes in the first round, the number 1 seed gets defeated. Let's face it, the number 1 seed shouldn't have been defeated. They came in, they weren't focused, they thought they were going to win, they lost. If they were somehow able to be injected back into the tournament, they would still come in pretty high because they're still pretty damn good. They just lost. Everybody can lose. You can have electrical problems, you can have mechanical problems, you can have a bad day driving, whatever. So it's possible for someone to come through the Desperado tournament and enter into it higher than the 16th seed. You can't have a Desperado tournament with a bunch of shitty-ass robots, man. You have to have a chance to win to make it in my opinion. That's what I say.
Yeah. Free shipping versus Yeti was a fight that happened. I guess it was all right. It was not really all that good of a fight, I guess.
Man, what are you talking about?
I'm being sarcastic. That's what I'm being talking about. This fight was fucking awesome!
Yes. God, I was worried, man. Dude, I have it as a great fight.
This was a fucking awesome fight!
Yes. It was a great fight, man.
Dang it, Yeti. Why do you have to have the best fights?
Well,
I'm not even the biggest fan of you.
Free shipping started out, man, kicking some ass, but
free shipping was kicking ass for 30 seconds in the middle.
well, they started out kicking some ass. That's my point. They started out kicking some ass.
Oh, I think Yeti was on top everywhere except the middle, not at the beginning.
Oh, I disagree. No, I thought free shipping came out doing well and was getting the better of them at first, but then Yeti wouldn't quit, and their attitude of no strategy,
just Hulk smash,
just keep going was definitely what won it for them.
Yeah,
and there's this one point in the fight, Ben, where they're struggling in my mind, and they came in and hit them, and then you can see free shipping's machine just take damage, kind of and then the momentum of the fight changed, man, and they were kicking their ass then, man. They were on them.
Oh yeah. I think the forks would have helped.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not a fork. I don't understand the forks.
They can act as a feeder. They can act as feeder forks. I
don't understand the fork. You saying get rid of the drum and put forks on?
No. I'm saying keep that smaller drum and keep the forks. They could have done way more damage to Yeti.
Dude, no, the big drum. The big drum.
Well, see, I think the season 2 and 3 version of Yeti would have kicked way more ass in this fight than this version does because that drum sticks out way further in front of the body. This version's drum is kind of blocked by those 2 white guards on the front. It's a better design overall for sure, but they need those forks now. They didn't need them before because their spinner was just so far in front of everything else that could block it. Now it's not. And it seemed as though every time, even when Yeti was getting straight on side things, not being blocked by free shipping's wedges, which, that just kind of happens to verts without feeder wedges in general. Even the season 2 and 3 versions would have not been able to do damage to free shipping's front end. But even when it was getting good side-on pushes with his drum go and it wasn't really hitting anything, it took a while for them to even hit and take off one of free shipping's
Well, you're
wedges.
right about it. It did take them a while, but they were persistent. They didn't give up, and they eventually chewed him up, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 weapon motors apparently as well on that on that drum.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot of weapon motors. I'm pretty sure
I thought that was a
most
good
people use
example
2
of
max.
not quitting and just persevering and definitely keeping the fight on, man, keeping the pressure on, keeping the damage on.
Oh, yeah.
Their drum didn't quit on them. Wasn't like they just kept they started pushing each other in the end. And once they got on top of them, man, just knocked that shit off. It was great, dude. I thought it was a great fight.
Do we count that as a weapon getting detached from the machine? Because how many fights has that happened in so far? I think all 3. Warhawk got its weapon frame completely detached.
I think
Sidewinder got its thing detached, and then
it
Ragnarok,
wasn't detached. Their weapon, free shipping's weapon, was not detached, but it was severely damaged. Well, detached is separated from the they're in 2 pieces, and it was not in 2 pieces, but it was barely hanging on.
Yeah. Do we count Ragnarok as well in that? I think we would because that hammer was detached.
No, it was not detached. No, detached needs to remain a word that means something, and the meaning is it is no longer attached. Therefore, it is detached. And Ragnarok was not detached, and free shitting was free shitting.
That's
free
staying
shipping.
in. That is staying
That's
in.
fine. Keep it in. Free shipping was not detached. However, they were severely mangled. I did say that.
Free shitting? I really wish I could use that as the title, but I can't.
Maybe you can edit that and make it look like it, but without saying it. Well, how would you have scored this fight? I'm interested to know, because it obviously went to the judges.
Oh yeah,
Because free shipping would not die.
I think Yeti deserved the win.
Well, of course, Yeti deserved the damn win. I'm saying, how would you score it?
3 damage points for Yeti. Yeti gets all 3 damage points, and then control and aggression. Do we give both control points to free shipping, or don't we?
Well, I would score it 5-2, and I would probably give 1 control and 1 aggression to free shipping, and 5 points to Yeti. Is how I'd do it. I'm just curious how you would score it.
I think that sounds.
You know,
fair.
I'll have to admit, when I score things, I don't worry so much about what category the points come from. And obviously, if you're a judge, you have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I just kind of take a look at it and say, well, this is how I do it. And the bottom line is, I'd give free shipping 2 points, and I'd give Yeti 5. But I would have been pissed had this been a split decision. Would you have been? Would you have been upset?
I would have been very confused if it was a split decision for sure.
Yeah. I mean, because there's no question Yeti kicked their ass. I mean, Yeti won the fight. Yeti won the fight, right?
Yeah.
We both agree on that.
Yeah.
Well, 2 0-1 teams came in.
And
free
Yeti
shipping
got a win,
is now 0-2. What do you think of free shipping? I mean, do they make it to the Desperado? Are they a good robot that keeps losing?
They're the best robot ever.
People love Gary Jen.
I mean, yeah.
I'm a newcomer, by the way. Why do people love Gary Jen so much?
Because free shipping competes at Robo Games and at other competitions as a machine called Original Sin, which is undoubtedly the most feared machine ever built. It literally wins almost every other Robo Games and comes
How come
second.
he's not winning here?
Because he had to put a lifter on it, because there's an active weapon rule.
Oh, so what? He has a robot that doesn't have a weapon?
Dude, have you missed everything I've said about Wedgebots so far?
Well,
Wedgebots are the best on the live scene.
Well,
Original Sin is a Wedgebot.
So does that just push? They just push people around.
Push people around and never die from hits. Although, I mean, I say
that
that
people want damage, man. People want some weapons.
I know, but I say that. You know how Jameson, Rob, Zach, and Hal, especially from Duck, was saying that spinners are now so powerful that you almost can't defend against them at all.
Right.
And they're also so reliable that they very rarely die if they're built correctly. I think it's time to allow 1 or 2 machines into Battlebots that have no weapon. I'm not saying remove the active weapon rule entirely. I'm saying don't just outright reject machines with no weapon. I'm saying look at their applications, and if you like them, and if they can demonstrate that they are entertaining in their own right, let them in.
How are they entertaining?
Have you not watched Whoops versus Last Rites yet from them?
No, I haven't, man. I'm a newcomer to this. Let me just say, one robot pushing another robot around might be interesting to you, but I don't think it's interesting to the people you're trying to get into your sport, the newcomers. I just don't think so. So let me say this. What if they let in 1 or 2 and they win?
I'd say that's fair game. But
and they win just because they don't. I mean, because think about it. If you can build a robot, if you don't have to put a weapon on a robot, you can put so much more effort and energy, meaning parts and labor or design, into just surviving and building a bulldozer. Nobody wants to see bulldozers, man.
I mean, you say that spinners may be harder to get right, but a lot of these teams have had the same design for many years now, and they've been refining it for the longest time. Tombstone is essentially as good as it's ever going to get right now.
Probably so.
I'll bet you that every change he makes from now on is going to be small. Same thing with Minotaur. Same thing with
I believe that.
Something like
I believe that.
like Bite Force. Yeah, for sure. And I don't think Wedge, specifically because of what Hal was saying, I don't think wedges are as strong as they used to be. They definitely are not. I mean, Last Rites and Toro Maximus have both kicked Original Sin's ass on multiple occasions before. Those fights are on YouTube. Toro Maximus especially just eats Original Sin alive every time they fight.
Well, let me just say, man, you're trying to build a show, and you're trying to build a sport, and you need a lot of people to watch it. And I don't think it's just like in UFC when you get two wrestlers going at it. They just wrestle each other, and it's very technical, and those guys will kick your ass if you fight a wrestler if you don't know how to wrestle. But it's boring to watch. You know, whereas you get two guys that throw punches, even though they might not be able to beat a wrestler because he would just take them to the ground and hold them there and keep them controlled, you know, like kind of like a wedge butt pushing people around would do. Mm-hmm. But man, two guys standing there throwing punches at each other, people love watching that shit. And it's the same with machines, man. You need machines to do some damage, not just push each other around. That's not going to get you a sport that's going to ever become hugely popular. You're not going to, for instance, make a living doing that. We're not going to get invited to the Discovery show with free tickets on that because it'll die.
Will our free tickets have free shipping?
They will have free shipping. It'll be, you know what? It'll just be emailed. You'll print them out and show up.
They'll be emailed.
We'll show up and we'll be like,
our own tickets.
We're Scott and Ben with Bedrock Engineers, and like, we've been waiting.
Oh yeah,
on you
two guys. Yeah, you're celebrities.
You get a little thing they'll put around your neck with a little badge, a little pass.
Yeah, all the teams will recognize us.
Don't worry.
Ray Billings will come up to us and be like, "Hey guys,
don't worry.
Like, do you guys have any advice for me? Like, can you tell me what I should do with my wheels?"
No, they won't ask for advice from us, but they will have her ask us to promo their new robot.
You think we'll get to meet Jenny Taft?
No, we will not get to meet Jenny Taft. No. That will not happen.
Free shitting.
All right, let's move on, man.
All right, so then we had Gruff versus Copperhead.
Well, hang on. Are we done with this one? I mean, 5-2. I got it. You got it. Did you ever say what you would score it?
I said that sounds fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
All right. Judge got it right. There we go. All right, let's move on.
Gruff Copperhead was
awesome! I thought it was great too, man. I got another great fight.
Oh,
great
yes.
Fight. Dude, that's why I'm saying this was a good episode. This was a good episode.
But it had two of the worst fights in the entire season so far.
No, disagree. No, there was other shittier fights than this. And those were fast fights with knockouts, man. So don't discount those.
All right, point taken, I guess. I mean, I should say I definitely like this episode a lot more than I did when I first watched it right now, but I still don't think it was as good as the last three. I mean, I think everything from episode 3 to 5...
Keep talking to me, and I'll talk you into this is the best episode. It might not be the best, but it was good. It was very entertaining. That's my point.
I mean, the pit sections were bad, though.
The pit sections weren't that good, but the fights were very entertaining.
Especially this one. I thought this was the best fight of the episode. By not far, I guess. Or
really
free
good
fight. Was almost as
really good fight.
I love Copperhead. It's so small.
Man,
it's so small. It looks amazing.
Like
that copper drum.
So let me ask you, what did you think of the switch in drivers?
I don't think it was a bad choice at all because here's why. Apparently, Copperhead also has Chinese parts. And the Chinese parts
let me tell you this. Everybody has Chinese parts.
No, I mean inferior Chinese parts that were not what they ordered.
Everybody has inferior Chinese parts.
That were not what they ordered?
Yes.
So Copperhead's...
If you ordered shit from China,
parts,
you didn't get what you ordered.
The Copperhead's inferior parts are actually temperature sensors, so like heat sensors for their brushless motors. Yeah, what?
Well, keep going, but I have something on that.
So everything else was fine except for those, and I don't know why this wasn't a problem in their first fight. I kind of just listened to Zach's explanation like once, and I might not be remembering it correctly. Mm-hmm. This is where note taking is handy, folks. But apparently, these temperature sensors were not calibrated correctly, and they were just getting a lot of noise constantly. So after they would be like driving around for even a short while, one of the sides of the drive would say, "Whoa, it's way too hot. We're shutting off this motor." So it would shut off that motor, and Robert
basically over tip alarms.
Yeah, and then Robert would start frantically jiggling the sticks around like, "Oh no, are we dead?" And then a few seconds later, the motor comes back to life. Of course, it's totally fine because it wasn't actually overheated. And then it would just throw the machine in a circle and it would completely flip it over. And Copperhead's control, as a result, looked very poor, even though Robert knew exactly what he was doing. So,
maybe that's why he reached over when Robert was, or when Zach reached over when Robert was driving and wiggled something to see if he could.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, let me just say, Kenny was clearly saying that Zach should be driving the robot, but
they threw Robert onto the bus.
The bottom line is, if you want to just look at it from a statistical point, Zach is 0-1 and Robert is 1-0.
That's true. I mean,
and things aren't that's not a fair. You can't just look at it that way always, really, because there's, they fought different robots. Things are different, but Robert won.
Yeah, and
I thought Robert started off slow. I thought he didn't have his act together very well, but I thought he learned quickly and finished strong.
No, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say that Robert controlled it really, really, really well, except for because one side kept shutting off, and then he would start going, "Oh no!" And
there you go. If they're having over-temp alarms that are causing,
if they didn't have those in there, Copperhead dominates this fight way more than it did. I mean, they still won, so it's not really that big of a deal. But
so, did you think they dominated?
They didn't quite dominate.
No,
I wasn't mad that this was split. I was a little surprised, but I was kind of like, well,
I don't have anybody getting their ass kicked. I mean, they both kind of did some damage to each other. I couldn't tell who won this fight. I did not know who won this fight. I could not score this fight. My roommate, who's a second-time viewer, we'll call her, thought Gruff won, and I just could not tell who won this fight. I thought this fight should definitely be a split decision. I mean, that's kind of saying one judge has got to be wrong when you say a split decision, but I just thought it was very close. Did you, before the judges gave their verdict, who did you think won?
I mean, I didn't even consider the possibility of Copperhead winning. Of Gruff winning. I just thought, Copperhead's got this. You
thought for sure,
for absolute certain. And then when they said a split decision, I was like, what? And then later I went back and watched the fight again. I was like, actually, that was a lot closer than I first thought it was. So
initially, you didn't think it was worthy of a split decision. You thought it was a clear victory. But after watching it a second or a couple more times, you thought it was closer. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I'm
trying to figure out.
It's difficult to quantify.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Well, it was difficult for me to pick a winner.
It's interesting you say that your roommate, second-time viewer, thought Gruff won. I would never have thought that any first or second-time viewer would give the edge to any control bot, because usually people just kind of look at damage and are like, well, clearly that machine won.
Well, no, I think that's actually the reason why, first they've outlawed just control bots. You have to have a weapon.
Well, control bots have a weapon, usually. It's push bots that have no weapon.
Oh, okay.
They can act as control bots.
Okay. Well, we'll get into
wedge
that.
bots, push bots.
We should discuss that later. But
yeah.
So, when someone pushes someone else around, you tend to think they're the winner.
Yeah.
Even though they might not be dealing damage and all that, you just tend to view it as the winner. We also, tend to view things, particularly, I think humans and human fights, but we view the end of a fight much differently than the beginning of a fight. However, in this fight, I actually thought the end of the fight was clearly for Copperhead. Gruff's robot. Gruff's the one with the fire, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't gone off about that, man. Oh,
that's coming. Don't worry.
Okay.
I don't understand why they hype that up so much. It's a flamethrower. It does nothing.
Well,
crying out loud, it does nothing unless you're complete control, in which case it's
amazing. Well, okay, all right. Let me tell you this: you're telling me that Copperhead says they were having over-temp problems. Okay, that's what you said. And then what happened the whole fight?
No,
Gruff kept blasting them with fire. What do you think fire does?
No,
it raises the temperature.
I mean, this isn't exactly
Don't discount it, man. Don't discount it, dude. There are sensors on robots, and that's actually something I want to talk about. I don't know if we should talk about it at the end or maybe right now, but I think it would be... Well, anyway, let me just stick to this. If you're blasting someone with fire, which is clearly heat, and they're having temperature issues with their sensors, don't discount the two. They can be linked. In fact, probably are.
Oh man, like that's a bit of a stretch. I think,
No,
'cause, like,
how can that be a stretch?
I mean, it's not exactly.
I'm blasting you with a flame, and you're going, shit, that's hot. I mean, that's what happens when you burn someone with flame, man. They get temperature problems. So what I was going to bring up, and I don't know if you want me to talk about this in the end or maybe now, but I'm just going to say it. I think it would be awesome if we had each robot had some telemetry in it. For instance, one, a microphone, two, temperature sensors that we could actually see, the viewers could say, look at that, man, that robot went from room temperature, which we'll just say is 75 degrees Fahrenheit,
22 degrees for all you non-US viewers.
Yeah, exactly. And we can see that's actually happening. What's happening in this robot? That's one of the neat things about kart racing and Formula One is there's all this information that you get, and it's awesome, man, to be able to, see what's happening, man. The motors are currently heating up. What's going to happen? Are they going to make it? What really happened when Gruff was clearly blasting them with some flame? It might not have looked like. In fact, I really believe Gruff was taking more damage from the flames. Was taking more damage from the flames than Copperhead was, because they even said it. They couldn't turn the flame off. They clearly overheated. But Copperhead, you're now telling me, was having temperature problems as well. Those are related
because of their janky temperature controllers. But still,
okay.
In the eyes of the judges, it doesn't matter what the problem what was caused by. The problem is there.
Yes,
and
the problem was there.
You say that it's easy to think of Machine 1 when it was pushing around. I don't think Gruff did a lot of that. I think it was mainly Copperhead's lack of control that swayed it in favor of that one judge.
I agree. I can't really exactly explain why my roommate made it that way, although I have to say, I did not know who won this fight.
Copperhead's drum hits hard.
I like Copperhead's drum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I'm liking Copperhead because we talked to the guys, and I thought... I
also, the machine just looks amazing.
It does.
It's so tiny.
Did they change out their drum from
yes,
the one
did.
that had
all the janky spaghetti-looking stuff on the back?
It had some skanky-looking stuff on it.
They did file down the tooth on the second drum. They made two drums, right, and then both of them were out of balance. The tooth side was way too heavy, so they tried to weld on another piece of metal on the back of the first one. Messed it all up, and then for this fight, they decided, let's just grind down the tooth on the second one, not risk, messing this one up too. Yeah. So that's what they did. It looks way better, and it hits like as hard as Minotaurs, I think, used to.
Because Minotaur,
I have to clarify, used to.
Yeah. Minotaur currently in the hitting game, buddy.
Come on, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 pounds of steel, 168 miles an hour. On paper, that shouldn't be as strong as Minotaur, but it seems to be. And, asymmetrical one-tooth designs really hit hard. They chunk things.
Yeah, they do.
Also, they brought back that shitty buzz sound effect.
Yeah, I know, man.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. It's so annoying. It sucks so much.
Well, Copperhead left with a victory. They're 1-1 now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
Yeah, me too. Anything more to say on that fight?
No.
So next we had Hypershock versus Monsoon, which was boring, and I want to skip this one too, but I can tell you're not going to want to, so I guess we have no choice but to talk about this boring ass fight.
Well, we don't have to talk about it a lot.
Let's not.
I thought it was a decent fight.
How can you possibly call this a decent fight?
I thought Hypershock clearly had better driving. I thought Hypershock, their driver is great. Or at least very good.
We can forgive him for
Hypershock was on him. Monsoon broke in half. Monsoon got his ass kicked.
Yeah, he did.
KO.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
good. Move on.
Bronco versus Bite Force. So finally we get to see Bronco, and finally we get to stop seeing those posts on Reddit where every other one is just, where's Bronco? Why aren't they in this season? Do you people watch the show?
They haven't been in the show.
They have. They were in episode 3.
Okay, let me just say this. This is a show about fighting robots. Have they been on fighting anybody? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, therefore they haven't been on the show.
Do these people just watch the fights and then for every other non-fight thing they're just
Look, dude, just because you had Bronco on flipping a washing machine, that's not what we want to see. I mean, people want to see Bronco fight another robot. So don't be upset with people saying Bronco hadn't been on the show, because guess what? Bronco hasn't been on the show.
But they should know he's on the show, right?
No,
At this point?
no.
We're just 5 episodes in before this.
He hasn't fought anybody until this episode. If you look on the website and you look at his record today, because I looked, you know what it says? 0. He's had no fights. Now, I would say that means he hadn't been on the damn show. I mean, just because we watch a boxing match and they look to the stands and show a fighter, that doesn't mean he's on the show. The guys that are on the show are the guys in the ring fighting. And the guys on this show are the guys on the robots in the ring fighting. So Bronco made its debut in this episode. Yeah, they talked about him. It's like, when you watch 2 football teams and at halftime they talk about some other team for a minute. That doesn't mean they're on the damn show, man.
But does it mean they're competing in the season, in the football season?
Well,
to me, that does.
Of course it does, but we still haven't seen them until they play. And Bronco had its first fight in this episode. And so the people in Reddit, have been whining that Bronco hadn't been on the show because Bronco hadn't fought anybody yet.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to keep dealing with the "Where's Ice Wave" posts.
Yeah.
And Ice Wave actually
Luckily,
is
I'm not on
season.
Reddit, so.
You should make a Reddit account, I think.
No.
What would your username be if you did?
No.
Really?
No.
People love you, man, in these
That's not gonna
episodes. All right. Well, anyway, Bronco, like last season, turned up a few days late to filming. This is the first
maybe
time.
that's why they just got in a fight.
Well, yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. But, they always turn up like 2 or 3 days late, which that's completely fine. I'm not
They're the late arrivers to the party.
Yeah. And then they go in
fashionably
with a
late. They
go in. This is the first time they've gone in with a brand new robot and then gotten their ass kicked in the first fight. Speaking of which,
I would have to say they got their ass kicked.
Yeah, they got their ass thoroughly
Bronco,
handed to them in a package wrapped in
got his ass kicked.
Yeah. This is the first time they've ever lost their first fight of the season.
Bite Force is powerful, man.
Bite Force is just unstoppable.
Yeah. And you think their driver is the best, right?
The best driver. The best.
They're so good that it's hard to say that they're the best because they just destroy people so heavily.
Bronco did not get a single flip.
But one thing I got to say about Bite Force is they don't really make mistakes. So you might be right; they might be the best driver.
Apparently, they turned down. According to Paul, they turned down their weapon for this fight, so it would be more controllable. And I never saw Bite Force gyro dance with its weapon at its usual speed of 170. But sure, why not?
Well,
I'm not going to question anything Paul does.
No, they're the champs. They're the champs. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're the champs until somebody knocks them off that, and nobody has.
I don't think anybody can except for maybe Huge, who almost beat them last season, but only lost. Only lost due to last.
Huge.
Only lost.
With those big wheels.
Shush.
Huge.
Only lost due to lasting damage from Ice Wave. All right, they would not have broken in half if that hadn't happened first. Okay, they were whooping Bite Force's ass.
Huge
genuinely
sucks.
But they were whooping Bite Force's ass.
Until they got their ass kicked.
Until the lasting damage from Ice Wave
until Bite Force beat them.
Until Ice Wave got its revenge, or not even its revenge because they.
Now we're talking about Huge and Ice Wave.
Yeah, because Huge fought Ice Wave right before they fought Bite Force, and they could not get it completely fixed. Okay. Ice Wave destroyed the hell out of them. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, this new version.
Yeah, Ice Wave did. You're right. Destroy them. Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, regardless, we're back to Bite Force. They're so good that they make it look easy.
I mean, has it? It has not struggled in a fight. Aside from Huge's.
No,
aside from Huge.
And we've talked about this. We talked about it. I don't think the last episode. Maybe it was the last episode, but certainly the one before that. One of the last two. Driving might be the most important thing.
It is the most important.
And so, if they lowered their speed of their weapon a little bit to get more control, good for them. Their weapon is clearly strong enough to damage people. So if you get more control, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat, man. Right now, if you just had to say...
why do you think that?
Right now, if you had to say, the semifinals, the last 4 robots, who's that going to be in your head right now?
Bite Force, Whiplash, Tombstone, And it's a toss-up, honestly. I do not know who the fourth guy could possibly be. Maybe
I would
Sawblaze.
I would definitely say Bite Force and Tombstone, and I guess really I don't know enough about this and have them memorized enough, know them well enough to say who the next two are going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if Hydra snuck in there, though.
Really?
Yeah.
They're not quite at that level for me yet. Neither is Bronco at this point, though. Bronco is a machine that I like just a little bit less every fight it has.
Oh, really?
And at this point, I really don't like them very much at all, to be honest.
Do you like flippers?
I like flippers, yeah, but I like...
You started Bronco. It's like the first time you met Bronco, she's hot.
I was like, ooh, that's cool.
And then the 20th time you met her, you're like, she's a bitch.
Yeah. No, not quite at that level. It's more like... It's not at that level yet. It's more like she's kind of boring. Not that Bronco's boring, but it is a design I don't really like because every fight it has, it seems a little worse.
Do you think that's people are learning how to defeat it?
I think that's a big part of it, and also it's just showing its cracks more and more because it's so long. Like
it is long,
especially at the Remars live event. Like for some reason, it just looked it's so long.
It looks
at that live event.
Vulnerable being that long. I did think the little, I don't know what you want to call them.
Plangers is what they call them.
Thingies on the side, the little
teeth, the stupid wings.
Yeah, I thought they actually did pretty good because I think Bite Force would have torn their wheels off way sooner, would have destroyed them way sooner.
Yeah.
But they also kind of like helped Bite Force lock onto it and hold onto it a little bit better. But they didn't get destroyed immediately, and they didn't lock up the wheels. Kind of like I've learned is a problem with robots that try to shield their wheels, because most newcomers all think exposed wheels is just the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
and I'm not. I mean, you got to understand, I'm still not completely off that bandwagon, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I thought those things really held up actually pretty well. I thought Bite Force would just destroy those things, and it didn't.
They protected them from the big hits.
But Bite Force did still kick their ass.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I'm going to say it. I don't think it's really Bronco's width not the width, the length that's the problem. It's actually just how far apart their wheels are, so the wheelbase. I think if they just moved the wheels closer together instead of making the body shorter and just made their wheelbase square, they'd be way more maneuverable. I mean, like their driving was frankly terrible in this fight.
It was.
I mean, this is their first fight in almost a year. To be fair,
you're right. It was the first fight
in almost a year.
And they went against the champ.
Yeah, but they
we
were
have to
so
keep that in mind,
outdriven.
man. We have to keep that in mind. It was their first fight, and they went against the champ. So don't discount them, but you know what? I think you pointed out that their weaknesses are starting to show, and people are learning that.
Yeah. I've said in the past that, well, actually, before I talk about that, I should say, at the Remars live event, which was recorded a while after the filming of this event, so by that point, they're, again, used to driving the machine. When they fought Witch Doctor, they pretty much, within 1 second of the fight starting, they exposed their side to Witch Doctor, and Witch Doctor kicked the shit out of them way harder than Bite Force did. Just tore the plangers off, tore 3 of the 4 wheels off, just beat them to hell and back in under a minute. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And so
driving's important.
Yeah, driving's important.
And learning. People are learning. These guys are learning how to control their machines and how to damage the other guy and the other guy's weaknesses. People are, I'm sure scouting them, making notes on what their weaknesses are and trying to take advantage of that. I mean, if you don't do that in a competition, shame on you.
Yeah. Well, sound effects are still trash.
They're ridiculous.
Oh, that buzzing. Now, it's even worse in this fight than it was in the Copperhead Scorpius
I'm so
fight.
mad at you for pointing it out. Because
I'm so sorry.
Now all I do is hear that crap.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to our viewers too, but
I went through 5 episodes and I didn't really pay attention to it, and now it's all I can hear is that.
I wish y'all could see Scott's face right now.
We really should have microphones.
It was even worse in this fight than it was in the Copperhead Scorpius fight, because instead of bzzz, it was like this shitty rattle sound, like a baby's rattle combined with that buzzing sound. It was like
along
with the buzzing. It was
lame.
And it's like every hit from Bite Force. And then not only that, but they use the same clink sound effect twice in a row in rapid succession when Bite Force got this like a double hit, like bang bang, but it was the same sound both times at that speed. And it was like it was like, are you kidding me with this shit?
I don't like it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they need to stop that. That's why I say they should mic up the arena, put a microphone in each robot. I don't care, man. Figure it out.
Yeah. I agree so much.
I mean, maybe we should loan them our sound engineer. We could loan them our sound engineer. Maybe next year our sound engineer should come with us when we go to the episode. We're going to need 3 passes.
Does that conclude this episode, do you think? Or do you have anything more to say? I'm done as well. I'm ready for a cheeseburger. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We always appreciate the viewership, and we always appreciate the ability to come together and record this stuff. I've been Ben, a.k.a. Mokemeister from Reddit, and this was my co-host, Scott.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much to our viewers, our listeners, rather, for participating and helping us out. And thanks for having me, Ben.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.